One. So, due to some technical difficulties, welcome for a second time to the David Watson podcast.
Thank you for that second welcome. I really appreciate it. And thank you for asking me to come on your show. As I mentioned before, I thought this would be quite unique podcast. It's not the normal one I've done before. So I'm intrigued and I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. And big shout out to Kevin for doing the introduction, because I had Kevin on a couple of weeks ago. And we are going to get into the catch wrestling. But as I said, you very kindly sent me a YouTube link. And it was from an episode of Enemy at the Gates, Afghanistan, A History of Violence. And there's a wonderful line in there about 3/4 of the way through the video. And it says, and I'm reading the quote, "I've never been shot before, but I knew I'd been hit. And it felt like I'd been hit in the hand with a baseball bat." And then you went on to say, and I was really pissed off because I was supposed to be training that night, and that was my grappling hand. And I knew it ruined my holiday that I had planned in 2 weeks.
That's extremely true. So I've never been hit with a baseball bat either. So I'm assuming that's what it feels like, getting hit with a bat as well. Yeah, I was pissed off. I look forward to training every night, and that had been put a stop to that. But also, training trip to Thailand being booked for 6 months, and that was down the pan as well. And I was fuming. I was absolutely fuming.
It is, and to give people some background, you were a contractor for the Foreign Office, is that correct? Doing personal protection.
I was a contractor for the Foreign Office. So we work for a security company, and we're providing security for British government and diplomats and some other agencies.
And the place where you were all living was attacked by some Afghan insurgents, and effectively you guys had to take them on. And in that process, you got shot. Yeah,
that's true. We're obviously a target every day. The threat at the time was extremely high from the Taliban, and an offshoot of the Taliban, they had planned an attack on us a few months before, unsuccessful, and they tried again that night, which again, in terms on the whole of it, unsuccessful again. I led the counter attack onto the team that came in that night.
And because this is one of the things that I find fascinating about the subject of mindset, is how do you, when you're in that, because you're in that situation and the shit is literally hitting the fan, and you've taken a bullet, but through that conversation that I watched on YouTube, there's this whole conversation about, right, 2 people are still good. I'm now basically a hindrance, but I still have a job to do and a responsibility to do. How do you manage that mindset?
I think it's all through training. If you look at to that point of that day that happened, I've been training for 23 years. I have a combat experience from both wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. You could say I'm indoctrinated as well, with the will to win and the will to fight. Some people really excel in that area. I'm not saying I excel in that, but I look for that. If that sort of situation is ongoing anywhere, I want to be there. Some people don't like doing it. For me, I really enjoyed it. It was, you go, I was made to do that. This is what I'm made to do. And a lot of it is through training. A lot of it is indoctrination and experience.
So when you say through training, because people, where does that training begin? Because before you can end up in a situation with insurgents, there's, training comes in levels. So where would it begin?
It begins when you're 16 years of age and you're traveling down across the country as a young boy, 16, and you arrive at a military training camp, and there's a bunch of grown men who are going to indoctrinate you and train you and mold you into what they want you to be. And that's what happened. That's where it all stems from. And that's not an overnight thing. And it's not a week, a month thing. Training finishes after 32 weeks, I think it is. And even then, you're not ready. Even then, you're not ready. It took, I think around the age of 27, I felt comfortable in my job. And I've been doing it since I was 16. And at 27, I felt I'm in my prime here. This is what I'm good at this. I understand it. I understand the concept of war. I understand my role in that war, my small piece of it. And I feel like I can flourish with a sense of flair as well, with a little bit of flair. I've just felt comfortable in that arena. But it took all those years of trial and error, failure, being told that's not good enough, being told, yeah, this is good enough. This is what we want. And for me, I think you just got to do them basics well. If you do the basics well, you're good. Once the basics are nailed down, that's when you can start sort of, like I said, then you can have that flair to how you do things. And it's the same in war. It takes a long time, I think. Some people probably a lot sooner than others. But for me, where I felt comfortable in my own skin and I didn't think anything could faze me was So 16, so 20, 11 years. Yeah, feeling comfortable there.
Because you said something I found interesting there is basics. And I do think lots of people misunderstand the importance of just hold back. If you can get the basics to an expert level, you in practice, when you're put under pressure, are 5 steps ahead of the guy who should supposedly be better than you. Because your foundation is solid. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I totally agree. From war fighting all the way to like sport grappling, what we do now, them getting them basics right. And I was told it from a really young age. I had a guy called Mo Morris. He was my training instructor in training. Unfortunately, he's not with us right now. He passed away a few years ago. But he just told me, John, he said, John, just find someone who's better than you and copy what they do and then make it your own. And he was the guy who said, look, the basics, just do the basics well. And then everything else will fall into place. If you don't get them basics right, you can't do all the other stuff. You can't do the exciting stuff. And when it really matters, you'll trip up. So, yeah, basics for me are everything.